Footsteps of Freedom, a Civil Rights Journey. In the sweltering heat of Alabama, a diverse group of activists gathered, their hearts afire with the desire for change. Among them was Sarah, a bold student who dreamed of a world where skin color didn't dictate rights. John, a seasoned community leader, rallied them with impassioned speeches, urging unity against injustice. Together, they planned marches, their footsteps echoing the beat of freedom. In the face of hostility, they stood firm, their resolve unshakable as they faced down hatred with love. The streets became their stage, where they danced to the rhythm of equality. Sarah's heart raced as she faced the looming specter of violence, but she refused to back down. They marched, holding signs high, proclaiming their demand for justice. Bravery and determination coursed through their veins, fueling their fight for equality. The air crackled with tension as they confronted the entrenched forces of segregation. With each step, they challenged the status quo, refusing to accept discrimination as the norm. Their voices rose in unison, a chorus of hope amid the discord of oppression. But the road to progress was fraught with obstacles, and danger lurked around every corner. Sarah's resolve wavered as she faced the harsh reality of hatred, but she found strength in solidarity. Arrests came swiftly, but they refused to be silenced, their voices ringing out from behind bars. Despite the risks, they persisted, fueled by the belief that change was possible. The struggle was far from over, but they refused to yield to despair. Each setback only strengthened their resolve, igniting a fire that burned brighter with each injustice. The world watched as their peaceful protests shook the foundations of oppression. Slowly but surely, their efforts began to bear fruit, as the tide of public opinion turned in their favor. Politicians took notice, their voices amplified by the growing chorus of dissent. Legislation was drafted, promising an end to the era of segregation. Victory seemed within reach, but the forces of resistance fought back with renewed vigor. Sarah's faith wavered as the struggle dragged on, but she refused to abandon hope. The battle reached its climax as they marched on the steps of power, demanding change. Tears mingled with sweat as they faced down the forces of oppression, refusing to be cowed. In the end, it was their courage and determination that carried the day. The halls of power trembled as they spoke truth to power, demanding justice for all. And finally, their voices were heard, echoing across the land and inspiring millions. The tide had turned, and a new era dawned, one where equality was not just a dream but a reality. Sarah looked out at the world she had helped to shape, her heart overflowing with pride. The struggle had been long and arduous, but it had been worth it. As the sun set on the old order, a new day dawned, one filled with promise and possibility. The road ahead would not be easy, but they would face it together, as one united people. And though their journey was far from over, they knew that they had the power to change the world. As they marched into the future, their spirits soared, buoyed by the knowledge that they had made a difference. The legacy of their struggle would live on, inspiring future generations to continue the fight for justice. And so, as the curtain fell on this chapter of history, they looked forward with hope to the next. For theirs was a story of triumph in the face of adversity, of courage in the face of fear. And though the road had been long and hard, they had emerged victorious, their spirits unbroken. As they celebrated their hard-won victory, they knew that their work was far from over. For the fight for justice was ongoing, a never-ending battle against the forces of inequality. But they were ready, armed with the knowledge that they had the power to change the world. And so, they marched on, their heads held high, knowing that their struggle was not in vain. The road ahead would be challenging, but they would face it with courage and determination. For they were the torchbearers of justice, lighting the way for future generations to follow. And though the journey ahead would be difficult, they were undeterred, for they knew that they were on the right side of history. And so, they pressed on, their spirits undimmed by the challenges that lay ahead. For they knew that as long as they stood together, they could overcome any obstacle in their path. And so, they marched forward, their hearts ablaze with the fire of justice, their eyes fixed firmly on the horizon. And as they marched, they knew that they were not alone, for they were surrounded by a community of like-minded individuals who shared their vision for a better world. And so, they pressed on, their footsteps echoing the beat of progress as they moved ever closer to their goal. And though the road ahead would be long and difficult, they knew that they would reach their destination, for they were guided by the light of justice. And so, they marched on, their hearts filled with hope and determination, knowing that they were on the right side of history. And as they marched, they knew that they were not just fighting for themselves, but for future generations who deserved a world free from discrimination and injustice. And so, they pressed on, their voices raised in song as they moved forward, step by step, towards a brighter future. And though the journey was far from over, they knew that they would never give up, for they were fueled by the belief that a better world was possible. And so, they marched on, their spirits unbroken, their determination unwavering, knowing that together, they could change the world. And as they marched into the future, they did so with hope in their hearts, knowing that they had the power to create a world where all people were truly equal.